Welcome back, folks, to Fixing My Faith. Well, today we're dissecting the May 2025 JW broadcast episode. And this monthly internet sermon, it controls all of the Jehovah's Witnesses worldwide. They look forward to this each month. And you notice there's no descriptions, no transcripts when you look at it. You got to watch the darn thing to see what's in it. It's designed to control and manipulate people, whoever watches it. So be careful when you watch a lot of this stuff. Now, we're going to expose in this video how it uses fear, guilt, and manipulation to recruit labor and demand loyalty and fund a real estate empire. So when we dig into the first little segment right at the beginning, you're going to notice, the guy in a disaster, how these natural disasters, Armageddon's right around the corner. And you're going to notice that they used last year's clip from the drama, these people walking through a creek bed, and how because they obeyed Jehovah, that's why they got away safe. So you see how they do it? Right out the gate, folks. This is the introduction to their broadcast. Here it is.
We know what the future holds. Bible prophecy clearly indicates that we are living in the last days. We understand what events will lead to Armageddon and the arrival of God's new world. However, we do not know the exact events that we'll experience personally. For example, you might wonder, will I experience a natural disaster? And if so, what kind of disaster? How will persecution affect me? Will I end up in prison as I get older? Who will care for me? Have you ever asked yourself similar questions? Has this uncertainty made you anxious or fearful? Such feelings can make it hard to think clearly. But these feelings can go away when we realize that we are well prepared. For example, do you remember the feature drama from the 2023 convention, Commit Your Way to Jehovah? It illustrated how following the organization's direction saved lives during times of political unrest. But is there anything else we can do to be fully equipped for tomorrow? Absolutely. In fact, we are preparing ourselves every day.
Wrong screen. My script screen. So right out the gate, you notice the video leads to fear, Armageddon, almost a second word out of his mouth, disasters, persecution, like the guy in handcuffs. And then the old lady, like you're worried about getting old in the JW organization. The end was supposed to come in 1975 or 1914. But, and then they present the only solution. The only solution, just like that drama illustrated, it wasn't even a real life situation. It was an illustration. It was a drama. But what they wanted to illustrate, that is, if you follow JW.org, you will be saved. That's what they made that drama all about. So it wasn't real life. It wasn't like the brothers in Russia following JW.org and getting saved. They're getting put in prison. That's the truth of it. So they have to use this made up stuff and make it look like it's real, and it's a cult tactic. They manufacture fear to demand loyalty. So now we're going to get into the next segment. It's guilt into free labor. And let's talk about this. Being active in the ministry is the first step. And they push the ministry as a coping strategy for fear. Not only does this manipulate emotions, but it exploits members into unpaid labor. For instance, the first part is knocking on the doors for the watchtower. So this is guilt-driven action equals free labor. So the more that they have even children out there, even 7-year-olds, 12-year-olds, whoever, even before baptism, you're out knocking on doors, recruiting people into the watchtower. and that's free labor. So let's take a look at this.
What kind of activity? Among other forms of activity, notice what Peter wrote a little later in his letter at 1 Peter 2, verse 9. You should declare abroad the excellencies of the one who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light.
Nothing in here talking about the ministry,
Christians were
folks.
active
Nothing
in
about the
telling
ministry.
others the good news
This is
about
all
Jesus Christ.
just pictures.
We do the same
make 'em.
today. We are active in the ministry, sharing the good news that Jesus is King in heaven, and we speak about the hope for all. Now, how does this sharing in this activity prepare us for the uncertainties of tomorrow? Talking to others about our hope for the future strengthens our own conviction and faith. This ministry keeps us focused, and we see the positive changes in those we teach. Sharing in this activity deepens our gratitude for being part of Jehovah's family. Has this gratitude motivated you to be active in the ministry? Maybe your circumstances even allow you to share in full-time service. By being active, you show Jehovah that His kingdom is the most important thing in your life. And Jehovah promises to care for those who put His kingdom first. You are in His protective hands. There is no need to be anxious or fearful. Therefore, being active in the ministry is the first step toward being prepared for tomorrow.
I'd like to just take just a moment and qualify what he's saying. It's easy for this guy to stand up there. He's looked after by Bethel. He has a meal. He has housekeeping coming in and automatically cleaning his clothes and cleaning his apartment wherever he lives in Bethel. And it's easy for these guys to say that Jehovah will look after you. But I was a regular pioneer, and I ended my JW career there. I ended my marriage there. I ended my business there with pioneering. Because what ends up happening is when we dedicate all of our loyalty to Jehovah, which is the Watchtower, by the way, it's not Jehovah. So when we dedicate all our loyalty to the Watchtower, and they make it look like if you're not regular pioneering, you're nothing. You're squat. So that's what these talks are doing, is getting everyone, now they say you just need to check the box, but now no one's going out in service. Now they're making you guys all feel like squat if you're not regular pioneering. And that's how I felt. This is not a new game they're playing. This is the same old tactics they've been playing back to when I was in it back in 2012. Before that, I came in the 80s. Same thing. You live your whole life hoping that someday you can pioneer. You can finally meet the expectations of Jehovah. But it's not Jehovah, it's the Watchtower. And in my case, I did that. And finally I got to that stage where I could pioneer. My kids were leaving home, and I could pioneer. So I took the leap. I pioneered. And guess what happened? I had a nice little business going. It all fell apart because I was out in the ministry, and I was trusting in Jehovah. And my Mormon guy, he took it over. They took it over. I lost that business, 10 cents on the dollar, and I ended up with nothing in the end. Jehovah's kingdom doesn't look after you, folks. That's a facade. That's a facade to get you out there recruiting for free for the Watchtower. Now you tell me in the comments, any of you guys, if you went out in the ministry and became a pioneer and everything just worked out and you grew old like me and you're over your 60s, you don't have a pension and you have squat. You tell me in the comments if Watchtower made you look at your future differently, made you buy into a retirement program because they knew the end wasn't coming yet. You see, they didn't preach that. The end's going to be here any day. Walk away from everything you have and pioneer. And that's, folks, that's the coercion. That's what we're exposing on this channel. That's what happens within this cult. So we're going to go next. They control your mind. And we're going to show you in the next little clip how they control your mind. This is chilling. Even though you don't agree or you don't understand anything, you go through with it. You follow Jehovah. You see, Jehovah equals Watchtower. So this is a chilling part. They praise obeying rules even when you don't agree with them. Folks, that's not faith. That's thought control. It's a tactic. Thought reform is a tactic that cults use, that you follow even when you disagree. Okay, let's play the clip.
Help us to keep our senses completely and make good decisions? It's godly devotion. This means being loyal to Jehovah and doing what he asks. Is this not what we promised to do when we dedicated our lives to him and got baptized? Yes. And since then, we've made many decisions to follow his directions, which often come through his organization. Some changes were easy. Others were hard, especially when we did not fully understand the direction or agree with it.
Do you notice how slick he was at when you get baptized, you're giving your full obedience over to Jehovah? And then he says, and sometimes the organization, he uses that word. And then he goes on about being obedient to the organization, even when you don't understand what the direction is. You see, Watchtower, they have taken on the position, they have usurped Jehovah or Jesus' role on this whole game of religion that they play. They have usurped Jehovah. They have usurped Jesus. Because if you've dedicated your life to Jehovah or Jesus, you didn't dedicate your life to the Watchtower. But you see, they're making themselves look like Jehovah on earth. If you're not following the Watchtower, you're not following Jehovah. You're not living up to your dedication. That's cunning. That's a cunning, slick little remark to show that your obedience is not to anybody else than Jehovah. The Watchtower. It's the Watchtower. That's what your obedience is to. Well, let's move on. The next we're going to look at discouraging education and independence. So this is a Hong Kong family interview we're going to look at. How they celebrate a son dropping out of school to learn construction. Not because he wanted to build a business, but because it's useful to Jehovah. The Watchtower, to the New World. It's useful in the New World. And this is about economic dependence, keep members poor and obedient. It's another cult tactic, undermining and education, glorifying struggle. Let's take a look at this.
Being Christian parents in the truth, we didn't want them to neglect their studies in school, but we also wanted them to know about the Bible. Therefore, we started studying the Bible with them and took them to meetings and helped them to preach to others. Since they were young, I emphasized the blessings from God and that we should always give thanks to Him. So when one of my sons told me, "Dad, I want to pioneer," I was thrilled, and I said, "You should do it."
But when I heard that he wanted to pioneer and work part-time, I worried about how that would affect our income. However, we never had a problem. I really saw how Jehovah blessed us. The amount of money that we earned was more than enough, and I felt cared for and provided for by Jehovah. When my eldest son told me that he wanted to stop his current studies and start learning a construction trade, I was disappointed. I thought that even students who didn't do well could do that job, and that type of work would be physically harder for him.
But he explained to us that being a construction worker would be useful now and forever in the New World. I eventually respected his decision. We taught our children to put Jehovah first, but when it came to putting it into practice, I needed to respect the decision made by my son. In order to make it possible for our whole family to pioneer, we needed to simplify our lives. During family worship, we discussed ways to reduce expenses so that everyone in the family was on the same page. I noticed that we did not lack anything, and that the whole family could all share the burden of our expenses. Our children are now all grown up, and they willingly serve Jehovah. I am so grateful to Jehovah because they have come to love Him with their whole hearts.
We are all so happy. I am thankful to Jehovah every time I see the smiling faces of my family.
I have clearly felt that Jehovah always takes care of His servants. Like it says at Matthew chapter 6, verse 33, if we keep seeking first God's kingdom and His righteousness, Jehovah will take care of us. And if our prayers are according to God's will, and we try our best, He will undoubtedly bless our efforts. Therefore, I have strong faith and hope for our future ahead.
Being different can be challenging. But wasn't it encouraging to see how this couple resisted cultural expectations and pressure? Instead, they agreed with their children's desire to pursue goals in Jehovah's service, and they supported them. Strengthening our friendship with Jehovah is the best preparation for tomorrow. And whether Jehovah ultimately uses children to care for their parents or provides help in another way, Jehovah will stick to His promise to care for us.
Well, will Jehovah care for you? Well, in the case of my bookkeeper, pioneer, missionary, Jehovah didn't care for them. When her husband got sick in the missionary service, they had to go live with her mother. And you see, at that point in life, the mother's getting old and she needs help from the daughter and the son-in-law, but she can't get it because they're sick. So this old lady has to look after and care for these kids that are wore out in Jehovah's ministry. They get sick, they get diseases down in those countries, and that's what happened. So does Jehovah look after you? They had no checks coming in. Jehovah didn't give them any airfare, nothing from Jehovah. In fact, Jehovah told them not to invest into their future. Jehovah told them, don't worry about tomorrow, worry about pioneering. That's what Jehovah told them. So Jehovah told them to undermine the education, but glorify struggle. You see, this is Watchtower, folks. This is a cult. This isn't God talking to anybody. So let's move forward. We're going to talk about targeting the non-religious. Iron sharpens iron segment. Here's the training module, how to convert non-religious people by soft selling, using empathy as a tool. And these aren't conversations. They're rehearsed sales pitches, folks. So the tactic here is scripted proselytizing disguised as empathy. Let's take a look at this.
What comes to your mind when you hear the word non-religious? You might assume this means the person doesn't believe in God. But the truth is that although the person may not belong to an organized religion, they might very well have a belief in God or in a higher power. So we don't want to make assumptions. Lesson 9 of our brochure, Love People, Make Disciples, says, empathy moves us to care about people, not just about our message. So let's focus on letting the person express themselves and then empathizing with their situation. Let's talk about 3 tips we can use to do that with non-religious people. 1. Be positive. 2. Listen with understanding. And 3. Share information that addresses their needs. Now, Let's see how we can apply these tips.
You know, with so many crazy things happening in the world right now, a lot of people feel like world peace is an impossible dream. What's your opinion?
If this is about religion, I'm not interested. Everyone is free to believe what he wants. What is important is not a bunch of rules and rituals, but believing in God from our hearts. That's my opinion.
I agree. Believing in God from our heart is very important.
And that would be my opinion too. Believing from God from the heart. Like that guy answered it right. Now keep in mind, folks, this is actors. This is all reenactment. This isn't even reenactment of what really happens out there, because this doesn't happen out there. You go out in the ministry, it's a lot of not at homes, people that aren't interested. Jehovah's Witnesses don't get the chance to talk that much. So this is, of course, acted out, and this is the message that they want you to show as empathy. So this guy, he answered correctly how it should be. Worshipping God is a personal thing, comes from my heart. It's not about Watchtower's rituals or the Catholic Church's rituals or any other religion's rituals for that matter. It's my own personal relationship with God or Jesus or whatever I want to call the superior authority that I worship. But anyways, the Watchtower here is going to show how they can use empathy. It's all acting. To be quite honest, I pioneered, and we'd follow the script and show empathy. At the end of the call, you don't really give a rat's behind what that guy went through. He was in another religion, and they just made it look that way. So yeah, they want to slam other religions, right? So this guy was in another religion, and it didn't go well for him. Well, Jehovah's Witnesses, they would slam it. Oh yeah, it's all part of Babylon the Great. It's all part of false religion. That's where this ends up going, a call like this. And that's how they show empathy, and then they lead them into their own doctrine. But anyways, let's listen to this a little bit more.
If you don't mind, may I ask you why you're not interested in religion?
I used to belong to a religion, and the hypocrisy I saw just completely turned me off.
I'm so sorry you experienced that.
Yeah, right.
I can understand
She's not
why
sorry
you
at
feel
all.
the way you do. If religion cannot be of much help, where do you turn to for reliable guidance during these tough times?
Well,
Did you see how well our sisters put our first two tips into practice?
Okay, well, there you have it. Training, monthly training to all the JWs out there. This tactic is scripted, proselytizing, disguised as empathy. And all those Jehovah's Witnesses out there, you and I both know that we don't look for headaches. You're already running a job. You're already going out there, put your 70 hours a month in. It's a lot of work to try to juggle all of that and maintain some sense of whatever's going on. But this scripted stuff and pretending, there was a lot of that going on in JW.org when I was in it. And it hasn't changed, folks. You can see it for yourself. Now, let's move forward. The next segment is about trauma bonding through redemption stories. Trauma bonding through redemption stories. So this is Luca's testimony begins. Luca's heartbreaking story is powerful, but here's the problem. They're using it as propaganda. Jehovah didn't rescue him. The organization did. That's trauma bonding, emotional hook to create dependency. So the tactic is emotional manipulation through personal testimony. Let's take a look at this.
Mind. But Jehovah has completely changed my life. I no longer feel anger or the need for revenge anymore. So there is no need to feel offended. Give yourselves completely to the hands of Jehovah. He is your Father. He will take care of you. He will never leave you.
Brother Lacra's story shows how learning the truth really is life-changing. Even feelings of intense anger and revenge can give way to real peace of mind. Like Lucas, all of us appreciate the way Jehovah teaches us to deal with difficulties in life, including in our family life.
That's a big thing within Jehovah's Witness religion, is emotional manipulation through personal testimony. And that's what Luca's testimony is about. He grew up in a rough neighborhood and met some JWs, went to the Kingdom Hall and became a JW. For all religions out there, Mormons, Catholics, all kinds of religions, there's all kinds of young people in the same story. It's trauma bonding through redemption stories. So that's why Jehovah's Witnesses play these. They play them back to you. They make movies out of them. They put a lot of money into this movie to make a movie out of it. And I didn't play much of it because they have a whole lot of this stuff on this broadcast. The next one, I'm just going to play a small clip. It's Spiritual Solutions for Mental Health. And this is consoling the depressed segment on this video. How do you deal with depressed people? Well, in years past, it was all just prayer and watchtower reading and stuff like that. They didn't really recommend people to go to the doctor. Now they are. They finally admit that depression may need real treatment, but only after insisting you try prayer, scripture, and shepherding first. Well, this delay is dangerous. So the tactic is spiritual bypassing of mental health. Now, I was a JW for 30 years. I was married to a JW for the 28 years of that term. And I left. She didn't, but she suffered depression the whole duration of our marriage. She was depressed and she had to go on to pills and stuff like that. And the elders thought she was lazy. She didn't want to go out in service. They penalized me. I couldn't get privileges. And she'd have to fake it and go out in service when she was depressed. And really what she needed was the whole family at home, probably doing something as a family. But no, JW.org forces people out in the ministry thinking that that's going to cure all their diseases. So, of course, these things don't work. But now it looks like they got enough peer pressure that they're telling people that, well, after we try this, we try this, we try this, we try this, I guess maybe you should go see a doctor. But you know what, folks? You start studying with someone and assign someone to study with a person, that could take weeks. They could commit suicide right under your thumb. You're not skilled, JW.org, at dealing with depression. I know that from experience and in dealing with my ex-wife. So this is something that JW.org, it sounds like maybe they're realizing, but they're still forcing the people to do all these other things first, and that could be too late. So it's a spiritual bypassing of mental health. They're still doing it. Here it is.
Well, after listening and offering thoughtful scriptural advice, the scriptures are powerful, but sometimes something more than that is needed for someone who's depressed. Why do we say that? Luke 5:31, Jesus said this, "Those who are healthy do not need a physician, but those who are ill do." Depression may not be because of some temporary disappointment or a temporary feeling of low or discouragement. It might be more clinical. It might have been inherited as part of a family trait or weakness. And scriptures alone, although very valuable, will not be all the help they need. In some cases, seeking medical attention is the course of wisdom, and perhaps in some cases, even medication.
Well, that brings an end to the broadcast. The rest is just a new song or some singing. But we tried to dig out all the main points, how they're trying to really coerce people. They're trying to use fear, and they're trying to make people feel like it's okay to grow old pioneering. Jehovah's going to look after you somehow. They want you to believe that somehow magically Jehovah's going to look after you, or by some other means, he said. You know, maybe your family will help you, or by some other means. You see, right in the Elders book, it tells them to go to the even other churches for humanitarian need, if they need it. They can go to other churches. We've showed that in the Elders book. And if they're government sponsored, they just are telling their people not to take the paperwork from the church. Don't join the church. Just go and take the humanitarian aid. So Jehovah's Witnesses will send you to wherever you have to go, a Catholic nursing home. You're old, they'll send you there if they're going to take you, and no one has to pay. JW.org has nothing to help its people. So what they do is they use fear, guilt, manipulation. They recruit labor. That's going door to door. That's labor. They demand loyalty, and they fund They fund their humongous real estate empire, and that's how they work. Now, what I want to say in closing here is, while they demand obedience and unpaid labor, how transparent are they, the Watchtower? Well, we're going to take a look at Charity Intelligent Canada, and I'll let you tell me how transparent they are. Okay, well, here's Charity Canada. What do they get for financial charity? An X. What do they get for results? An F. Demonstrated impact, low. So Watchtower isn't doing too good. You know how many stars they got on this? 0. No stars. So if you look at all the other religions out there, folks, they do get some stars. They do charity work, and they do have some transparency, but not Watchtower. So this is what we're dealing with, an organization that does not help the community. In fact, we have a petition, you can see it in the description of this video, in Canada, and anybody that wants to sign it can, and we're asking that Watchtower no longer get their charity status. They no longer get all the free money that they're doing because they have no demonstrated impact in Canada here. And that would be for the rest of the world. Well, if you're waking up, keep going. You're not alone. Share this video, speak out. Let's help others break free from control disguised as faith. So, folks, until next time, keep living your day with love. Bye for now.